Took some time, but I think I've been able to break down the playoff seeding and simplify how it could shake out.
Okay.
In a lot of different scenarios, Bengals could be the team that gets screwed.
Anyway, so there's a lot of reactions to what came out last night about these playoff scenarios because one, they're confusing, and two, there's a lot of, and we knew it was going to be a crap show regardless. Right?
Somebody was not going to be happy.
Yeah, people weren't going to be happy, and basically, like, we're gonna run down and kind of like go through all the different scenarios here, but there's a couple that like stand out like immediately. So like one, tomorrow you have the Raiders-Chiefs game. If the Chiefs win, they are the number 1 seed in the AFC. So like that's number 1, right? Yeah, exactly.
Go
so
Raiders.
They're voting on it today.
Come on, Raiders. Raider
voting
Nation,
on this
I'm behind you.
Because there was a bunch of scenarios that were proposed, and they were like, "Hey, like this is the stuff that we're going to vote on today."
Jarrett Stidham, give the Chiefs the Stids, Jarrett. Give them the Stids.
So 1, there's that. 2, the Bengals are the AFC North champions. So basically, they canceled the game, right? There's no contest. It's not a tie. It's not a win. They basically, the NFL was like trying to be like, it's kind of a win for both of you, but it's also kind of a loss for both of you. They were trying to find like the best way possible, but they're like, yep, Bengals are AFC North champions. Now, as you know, the Ravens are playing the Bengals on Sunday. So the issue is if the Ravens win that game, that causes a bunch of problems because the Bengals, like, they will still be AFC North champions because of their win percentage, even though the Ravens will have beaten them twice. And if they had lost to the Bills, like, that could have caused some issues. And so the suggested thing was if that happens and the Ravens and Bengals were going to play each other in the wild card, they're going to flip a coin to see what stadium it's going to be played at.
Right. Bizarre.
Yes.
Come on, Guillermo. Do it for me. Do it. Go Raiders. Go silver and black. May Al Davis bring you all of the ways to beat the Chiefs.
I thought you were going to rhyme. I was going to say attack, bring him back.
Bring him back, let him attack. It's Khalil Mack. Oh, man, he plays for the Chargers now. Dang it.
That's true.
Ruined my rhyme. Okay, so the Bengals just got to win this week, and I think a lot of the major issues will be avoided, right?
Correct.
And I think the Bengals will beat the Ravens. The other thing I think the NFL should consider in scenarios like this, which obviously rare, this is the first time I've seen it, right? But they do all these different things like win percentage, strength of schedule, like all of this stuff. Why not just weight the head-to-head matchup between the teams more in these situations? Because the Bills head-to-head with Chiefs won. Bengals head-to-head with Chiefs won. I think if they all had like the same record, sans the one game, you go Bills beat you Kansas City, Bengals beat you Kansas City. To me, that's more important than a lot of the other stuff they try to factor in. So again, Bills 1, Bengals 2, Chiefs 3. And that's not just me saying that to put the Chiefs at 3. I legitimately believe the head-to-head matchup should be a little more significant in these scenarios. Crazy.
I think the problem is then you have to do that for everybody. Because I think what the NFL was attempting to do, and this is what they said, was that they were trying to not affect as many teams as possible. And really, the only reason this is actually an issue is because the Bengals and Bills are 2 of the top teams in the league.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is not like, and another issue is like, this is not like it was back in September, right? Like, this was a week before the last week of the regular season. It's to the top teams. So like, now we have this issue. And I feel like if you say, well, head to head is going to matter more for these matchups or these teams, you have to apply that to everybody. It would
just
change
in these scenarios. Like, it should just be a thing you factor in a scenario like this. Also, maybe factor in who lost to the shittiest team this season. Who is the worst team the Bengals lost to? Who is the worst team the Bills lost to? I know the Chiefs lost to the Colts. Chiefs Chiefs almost lost to the
You're
Broncos
just trying to screw
twice.
the Chiefs, Brandon. You're just trying to screw the Chiefs.
No,
So
no, Tommy.
throw that graphic back up.
I am telling you some real life, mature solutions to this very.
You said Damar Hamlin woke up and said, "Screw
scenario.
the Chiefs."
What?
You said Damar Hamlin woke up and said, "Screw the Chiefs."
No, I mean, but I'm just reporting what I heard.
I'm just reporting the news. Put the chart back up. Put the chart, because there's a litany of other things, including Ford Field not being able to host any of these games because they're actually fixing their turf for the first time like ever. So that's actually kind of nice.
We have decided now that the team is respectable, we will give them a real turf to play on.
It's true. It's like maybe we should stop with all those ACL injuries. The really issue is if the Chiefs win. If the Chiefs win and become the number 1 seed, it becomes problematic, because you could have argued that Buffalo they could have gotten it if they won against the Bengals and they win this week against the Patriots. Right. So that the NFL is basically putting in scenarios here going, okay, we hear that and understand that. Here's how we're going to rectify it. So you see on like the number 1 seed, a whole bunch of these scenarios are predicated off the fact that the Chiefs win. They're the number 1 seed. And in the majority of these scenarios, in the AFC Championship game, if Buffalo was to play KC, you're going to get a neutral site for a chunk of these matchups, because it's basically offsetting the fact that Kansas City is could potentially win the number 1 seed over Buffalo with that weird no contest there. So this is their attempt to rectify it. So if KC wins and Buffalo's the number 2 seed and then it's Buffalo versus KC, you're going to have it a neutral site. I know they were talking about were they Atlanta, and then was it Indianapolis maybe?
Yeah, Indy's been mentioned.
Because they would do Ford Field, but they're basically fixing their turf, so they're going to do that one. Kansas City wins tomorrow against the Raiders. They're the number 1 seed. Doesn't really matter. If they lose and Buffalo is the number 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
Then it really doesn't matter. Then it's going to just be played in Buffalo. Have a nice day. Again, the confusing stuff starts to be like, if Buffalo loses, KC wins, then they're the number 3 seed. Cincinnati's the number 1 seed. If that would start number 2 seed if they win. So that's what that KC, Cincinnati, Buffalo is. But then everything would basically stay the same because it wouldn't be an issue. The problem is if you're the Bengals, all you need to do is win and you're kind of less screwed, because then you're going to get your home field, have a nice day. If you lose, which I don't think they're going to lose against the Ravens, who are basically playing, they ain't Lamar Jackson. They'll be fine. So yeah, I don't know. I understand people being upset, and I know it's very convoluted, but I feel like it's solid.
It'll work. 2 things, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, they're all really good football teams. I don't think it's going to matter where they play in terms of it affecting the outcome of the game. Obviously, you like to have home field, be at home, play there as much as you can in the postseason because it's more convenient. But we saw Cincinnati beat Kansas City in the championship game last year. They were on the road to Tennessee, won that game. I just don't when you're a football team of this caliber, I don't really think it matters. The other thing, now that I'm almost kind of rooting for this, is let's just say the final 2 seeds. Well, you get say Jacksonville and the Dolphins sneak in.
Sure.
And they just keep winning. And the championship game is in Jacksonville. None of this even matters.
None of it even matters.
The Jaguars just kept winning. And the NFL went through all this work and it was for nothing because Jacksonville, it's their year.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason why it's the AFC Championship that's affected is because that's when these teams are going to play, because they're that if these scenarios go through, if they're the top seeds, that's the only game that's really going to be impacted, I would say. So they never talked about it. They never thought about it. There is no 8th seed. That was rumors, which is why we don't listen to Pro Football Talk. But
they're thinking about allowing 12 teams in each division.
Would KC still host Cincinnati if Buffalo wins? Well, if Buffalo's the number 1 seed. So that, again, looking at these scenarios, if Buffalo's the number 1 seed, then none of this really matters, because then it's just Buffalo. And then if Cincinnati, then it says it right there. So you go across those middle things here saying Buffalo, KC, Cincinnati. They would be hosting by Buffalo, and if it was Buffalo versus KC and then Cincinnati versus KC, it would be at KC. So like I can understand why Bengals fans are a little peeved, because like they might not get the benefits of like being the AFC North champion and still have to play a harder schedule like next year. And like I get that.
It would be a harder schedule. It would affect their draft position, and then they would have to play a road game against a division rival to start the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's like bam, bam, bam.
Well, no, Cincinnati. So that, Nathaniel, that's the last one, right? If KC's number 1, Cincinnati's number 2, and Buffalo is number 3, then it's being played at a neutral site. Like if it's Cincinnati
basically the real answer here is let's just wait until Sunday night / Monday morning. Then most of these options, all of these options will be gone, and we'll have one clear-cut answer. Like that's what makes this confusing is the amount of scenarios that could still play out because there's 3 different results from all of these teams' games. And the Bills play the Patriots this weekend.
Correct.
So if Buffalo loses, that affects the playoffs very drastically.
Yeah.
And if Cincinnati loses, it also does. So we just need to see the conclusions of both of those games this week, and it'll simplify this greatly.
What happens if they're ties? I am not. Can you imagine like they just tie? Like KC ties, like Buffalo wins, and then
I said I wanted to see that for the way the Steelers could get in, because I think if it's a Patriots tie and a Dolphins tie, the Steelers could get in, and I'm like, that is the most crazy way for that team to get into the postseason, and that's what I want to see. But no ties, please. Let's just Chiefs lose, Bills win, Bengals win. Let's go.
Let's ride.
I'm surprised, like neutral site, the NFL's like London. You want the neutral site to be London, guys?
I mean, maybe.
How about India, where there are the most people on earth? We can get the most eyeballs if the neutral championship game is in India. That's how the NFL thinks.
Yeah, so that's the thing where Bengals fans are upset. They cannot get the number 1 seed now.